want you to take a look at this photo. That's a nice shiny. And here's another cool looking shiny. As we know, Into the Light went live this past Tuesday, releasing the new Horde mode in Onslaught, along with a beauty in weapons to go farm in the Brave Arsenal, along with their limited edition variations of them as well that are only available from now to the launch of the final shape. Meaning you're going to want to get in on this, farm for these weapons, because once final shape hits, you're not going to be able to farm for them again. And since legend mode gives you double the rewards, you're going to want to do legend if you are able to. And you're going to need a good build in order to get through Legend Onslaught, especially if you are trying to get through all 50 waves. And luckily there are a decent amount of options, but in this video I'm going to be going over the main Warlock build that I use to farm Legend Onslaught, get through 50 waves on Legend difficulty, and overall just giving the new Legend Onslaught mode the business. And I also just want to throw the quick disclaimer out there that this is nothing new. We're not using any super low-key exotics or anything. We're just coming in here to cook. So let's go ahead and talk about the build. First things first. Yeah, this is a Sunbracer build. We all know how insanely good Sunbracers can be, especially in a game mode like this where you are wiping out hundreds and hundreds of enemies per clear. So we're definitely going to want to have Sunbracers as our exotic of choice. Of course, bring your Well of Radiance. That goes without saying. And then for aspects, we are opting into Touch of Flame and Heat Rises. Yes, we are going infinite ×2 resto with this setup. However, something that's very important to mention are the fragments. Unfortunately, Solar Warlock only allows you to hold 4 fragments no matter what combo of aspect you're rolling with. So we're gonna have to make some tough decisions when deciding on what fragments to roll with. So we have Ember of Searing. This is one that I would say is absolutely a must run. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. This will help you big time in getting your charged melee back, which is the most important aspect, or ability rather, when using a Sunbracer build. Ember of Singeing is in a similar boat. However, we're using this ability to make sure that we have our Phoenix Dive coming back to us as fast as it can, because you can't proc the ×2 resto loop if you don't even have your Phoenix Dive ready to go. So Ember of Singeing helps us get that back. Ember of Ashes, we are going to have this fragment, especially in the later rounds on Legend difficulty, to help ensure that your snap gets the kill and procs your Sunbracers. You definitely could get away without using this fragment in the past, but for this game mode on Legend, you're gonna have to run Ember of Ashes. There's just no ands, if or buts about it. Speaking of fragments you have to run, Ember of Empyrean. Solar weapon or ability final blows extending the duration of your restoration and radiant is going to be ever so crucial. No infinite restoration build is complete without having Ember of Empyrean. It is a must. And if you do not know how to go ahead and actually proc the loop, first thing you want to do is consume your grenade and proc your Heat Rises. Get near your group of enemies that you're going to finger snap, jump in the air, use your snap melee, and then immediately Phoenix Dive down and start throwing your grenades. As you get ×2 resto when Heat Rises is procced, and then you use your Phoenix Dive. Use Ember of Empyrean during that short little window to extend the restoration effect. It can take a little of getting used to, but it is a very aggressive and potent combo. Now let's talk about some of the weapons that you can go ahead and use here. Of course, Sunshot is out there, a great option. Sunshot is so good, it goes without saying. However, the main exotic weapon that I have found successful for this specific game mode on this build is actually Gjallarhorn. Not for any boss damage scenario, but for just the how big of a need you have in clearing out these waves of ads, especially with those waves of like heavy shanks and or ogres. Gjallarhorn, especially with the tether, can really clean house, as every time you complete one of those bonus objectives, you get a free heavy crate anyways. If you have somebody in your fire team on finders and an exotic weapon, you're gonna have a lot of heavy ammo just in general to burn, to use, which really makes Gjallarhorn a great option to go for here. And the other exotic that I've really had fun using in this setup is the Dragon's Breath. Unironically, another exotic heavy rocket launcher that can cook an entire wave of ads, heavy majors, bosses. Overall, I would highly recommend both of these weapons, especially if you run into a scenario where you whiff your snap, you have to get it back, you jump in the air, shoot a galley rocket at a big group of ads, you'll get your charged melee back just like that, because Heat Rises grants you melee energy with any type of final blow while you are airborne. It doesn't have to be a solar final blow. It doesn't have to be an ability. It can be anything from a finisher in the air, an uncharged melee in the air. Any sort of defeat while you are airborne with Heat Rises grants you melee energy. And that's why for the 3 exotics, I recommend either Gjallarhorn, Dragon's Breath, or Sunshot. Now, for me personally, I've been running a double specials type of setup where I have a Truth Teller with Disorienting Grenades, Auto-Loading Holster, and Disruption Break paired with a Rewind Rounds Kinetic Tremor Supremacy. I cannot stress to you guys how so good blinding GLs are in this game mode, especially since you have to get relatively close to some of these enemies to get your Sunbracers proc. Blinding them as you go up to do your loop and proc your bracers is going to be so crucial, especially for enemies like Knights, Wizards, and Sniper Shanks who do a lot of damage to you. You'll find this come into play very handy, especially on waves in which you have to go and defuse mines. You can blind those ogres or brigs with a blinding GL, capture the point, defeat the rest of the wave, and then go get rid of those guys at the very end. And you can cap the point and just shoot them with the blinding GL and just keep them stun locked. A very great utility. I cannot stress how great blinding GLs are in this game mode, especially on the legend difficulty. The Supremacy honestly kind of just does a bunch of everything. It's pretty good for Tormentors because it's a precision based weapon. It's pretty decent for Ad Clear because of kinetic tremors. It's a really good weapon, and it definitely puts in a lot of work inside of this game mode. And kinetic tremors can also get buffed by Disruption Break, which can be pretty useful inside this game mode as well. Just something worth mentioning. Now we'll go ahead and talk about some of the mods, mainly the important ones. Ashes to assets on the helmet to help get your well back quicker, at least 1 momentum transfer and 1 firepower on your Sunbracers themselves, so you can make your own orbs and get your melee back quicker as well. Any defensive mods on your chest piece to help keep you alive, and then maybe just a reserve chest piece to swap to and pick up ammo with. On your boots, I would just recommend a Stacks on Stacks, a Harmonic Scavenger, and an Invigoration mod. The Harmonic Scavenger is going to allow you to have more ammo for your Gjallarhorn, and then Stacks on Stacks is very useful for making special finishers, which is really useful if you're using a double special loadout like I'm in the gameplay. And then everything else you can kind of just fill in by yourself. Mods on armor pieces aren't the most important aspects of your build these days. And then from the seasonal artifact, important ones would be things like Blast Radius to help you get even more armor charge for more special finishers, Revitalizing Blast for your solar grenades, Overload Rocket, Argent Ordnance, then maybe some of the other good solar mods in the tier 2 and tier 3 columns. Your aspects and fragments are going to be the most important part of the setup. It's the core of the setup, and everything just complements it for whatever the activity requires. One thing I do want to know is that if you want a solar blinding GL with auto loading and disruption break, you can get it from the empty vessel if you would like to use some of those Vanguard Ingrams. So yeah, like I said earlier, it's nothing offbeat, no underrated exotic, straight to cooking. Sunbracers Infinite 2 Resto, but let me just say, bro, you can still get shredded through ×2 Resto if you aren't paying some attention. That's what we got that blinding GL for. I'll be leaving a dim link to the setup as well if you want to go ahead and check it out. Let me know what your main build that you're using to farm Legend Onslaught and try and get some of those shiny weapons. Remember, hit up Instant Gaming if you want to get any games in DLC for a cheaper price. Thank you for watching the video. You guys take care, be safe, consider subscribing. We'll see your beautiful faces in the next one. Adios.